You sent over some really interesting stuff about the new season of Andor.
Yeah, the buzz is pretty intense.
It really is.
Yeah.
And looking at the critical reception, it feels like something pretty significant is happening in the Star Wars universe. Let's maybe unpack that a bit.
Definitely worth digging into. The numbers alone are, well, striking.
Absolutely striking. Okay, so we're seeing a 98% certified fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes,
Yeah.
which, for anyone not totally familiar, that's basically almost every single critic giving it a thumbs up. But here's the real kicker.
Go on.
That 98%, it's not just good for Star Wars. It's actually the highest score ever for any Star Wars movie or TV show.
Ever. That's, yeah. Let that sink in. Higher than Empire Strikes Back.
Higher than Empire, which sits at, what, 95%?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
So this really does kind of reframe things, doesn't it?
Totally. When you think about all the films, all the series over decades, for this show, season 2 no less, to hit that level of acclaim.
It's extraordinary, near universal praise. What do you think is behind that, beyond just the score itself? What's making it resonate so much?
Well, I think fundamentally it suggests a shift in the storytelling, maybe a maturing. And looking at the specific reviews helps.
Right.
Screen Rant's own review, for instance, really jumped out. They said, Andor, let me get this right, finishes its work in doubling down on what Rogue One started, pushing Star Wars beyond its old boundaries for a potency and relevance that none of its other properties have ever achieved.
Wow. Potency and relevance. That's strong language for Star Wars.
It is powerful stuff.
And it points to something specific, I think. That willingness to really explore the messier side of rebellion, the political intrigue, the human cost.
Exactly. Not just good versus evil laser swords.
Right. It's showing the impact on the galaxy, sure, but also on individuals, the shades of gray. And crucially, the sources mention it does this without leaning on constant fan service.
Yeah, that came up a lot, the absence of gratuitous cameos.
Which, let's be honest, has been a criticism leveled at some other recent Star Wars shows.
Definitely. So by avoiding that, it seems like they gave the story room to breathe.
Precisely. It lets them focus on the characters we're actually with in this story, their motivations, the gritty realities they're facing. It allows for a deeper dive, doesn't it?
It feels like it. And it's not just about what they left out, but what they put in. The reviews mentioned a great balance between, the action you expect, but also poignant drama and tension.
Okay, yeah. That sounds right for Andor. The tension in season 1 was incredible.
So the action feels earned, maybe, because you're invested in the characters and the drama.
Exactly. It's not just spectacle for spectacle's sake. The quiet moments, the tension, they build up the stakes so when the action hits...
It means more.
Right. The emotional connection is stronger. And speaking of characters, it's not just Cassie and Andor getting the praise, is it?
No, not at all.
Huh?
The whole ensemble. Mon Mothma, Luthen Rael, Stellan Skarsgård is amazing. Bix Kayleen.
Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma, yeah.
Yeah.
Her storyline is fantastic. Adria Arjona as Bix, too.
And even bringing back a character like K2SO from Rogue One, apparently it feels organic, worthwhile, not just tacked on.
Which is key, isn't it? It has to serve the story. Why do you think that wider focus works so well here?
I think it just makes the world feel richer, more real. The rebellion isn't one guy's mission. It's this whole network, this movement.
Different facets, different perspectives.
Yeah. And seeing those different struggles, investing in those other characters, it raises the stakes for everyone. It makes the whole thing feel more complex.
And when you do integrate someone familiar like K2SO, well, it adds to the story, builds on the lore, but doesn't, derail it.
Exactly. Seamless is the word, I think.
Yeah. Now, here's something else interesting from the sources. This idea that Andor Season 2 isn't just good Star Wars.
Okay.
It's potentially setting an impressive bar by which future projects will more than likely be measured.
Wow. Okay, that's a big statement.
It is, isn't it? What do you think the implications are there for Lucasfilm?
Well, it has to put some pressure on, right? If this more grounded, character-driven, maybe slightly more adult approach gets this kind of universal acclaim...
They'd have to take notice.
You'd think so. It's like, here's a potential blueprint for critical success. Maybe validation for taking risks like this.
So we might see, maybe not everything becoming Andor, but perhaps a greater willingness to explore these kinds of tones.
Could be. A shift in style, maybe.
Yeah.
It definitely raises questions about where Star Wars goes next.
And what audiences and critics are really responding to. It's also worth remembering the structure they're using.
Right, the 12 episodes, but broken down.
To 4 3-episode arcs, little mini-movies almost.
How do you think that structure plays into the success?
Well, it allows for real focus, doesn't it? You can dedicate 3 episodes to a specific storyline, a particular character arc, give it proper development.
Without having to stretch it too thin or rush through other plot points,
Mm.
you get depth in each block.
Exactly. It's a very deliberate pacing choice, and it probably contributes to that feeling of sustained quality the critics are picking up on.
Makes sense. Allows for both breadth across the season and depth within each arc.
And the whole thing, of course, is driving towards Rogue One.
Yeah, the endpoint is known.
How does that change things, knowing where Cassian ends up? Does it add something?
Oh, definitely. It adds this layer of dramatic irony, I guess. We're watching the events that forge him into the person we meet in that movie.
The committed, maybe slightly cynical, but ultimately heroic figure?
Yeah. So we get to see that transformation, understand the cost. And for us, watching it, there's this anticipation, knowing what's coming.
It gives the whole journey a clear direction, and maybe lets us appreciate the smaller moments, the building blocks of that character, even more.
Right. So let's try and synthesize this for the listener. What's the big takeaway from Andor Season 2 getting this level of praise?
I think it signals potential, a potential shift. It proves that Star Wars stories can hit this critical high note by focusing on, well, grounded storytelling.
Complex characters, more mature themes.
Exactly. It suggests there's a real audience, a hunger maybe, for exploring the Star Wars galaxy in this more nuanced way.
Moving beyond just the classic archetypes sometimes.
Yeah. Exploring the shades of gray, the political complexities, the human element within this huge galactic conflict.
And people can judge for themselves pretty soon. The first 3 episodes land April 22nd on Disney+.
Definitely one to watch based on this reception. It'll be fascinating to see if the audience reaction matches the critical one over the whole season.
What the ripple effects are for future Star Wars.
Indeed. The long-term impact.
So maybe a final thought to leave people with. Andor found this incredibly rich, complex story within the familiar frame of the Rebel Alliance.
By looking at it from a different angle.
Right. So thinking about that,
Yeah.
what other big established fictional universes might have similar hidden depths? Stories waiting in the unexplored corners, ready for a more mature, compelling treatment like this?
That's a great question. Where else could we find an Andor? Food for thought.